congratulate you all, frankly, for this formidable work that you're doing here. Both your teachers, the organizers of this club, you students. I'm impressed at this level of creativity. And frankly, I'm very moved. I'm very moved by what I'm seeing today. I'm very pleased about it as well. Your school has made a name in Washington, believe it or not. A good friend of mine, Chris Balderston, who is works at the State Department, came to me, about a few months ago and said, I went to Tunis and had all these meetings with officials, etc. But you know what my highlight was? This meeting at this business school, and encountering students, encountering staff, encountering teachers was really a great time for him. And so you guys made a name already. And so in addition to promoting Tunisia, your name has surfaced now in the United States. And frankly, whether it's promoting your country, promoting your school, or promoting yourself, it's basically the same principle. It's the same ideas. So I wanted to talk sort of briefly about why it's important to talk about Tunisia abroad, and really sort of tell you, also share some of my experience promoting our country in the United States, both talking to investors as well as talking to potential tourists. Now, why is it important to talk about Tunisia? Why is it important to promote Tunisia? It's a fairly simple question. Our country needs to open itself to the world. We are not sitting on a pile of cash. We don't have gas, oil, any natural resources that allows us to survive, frankly. So we need to be open to the world. We need to further open ourselves to the world. Our country cannot afford the contradictions between ideology and economic growth. It's that simple. So in order to promote Tunisia, us, diaspora, Tunisians who live outside of Tunisia, have a very important role. Before the revolution, unfortunately, no one wanted to be involved because no one wanted to be associated with the regime, etc. But after the revolution, it's quite the contrary. People wanted to engage themselves. People were motivated to talk about the country. Now, it's important to talk about our country in a structured fashion. So when we talk to investors, for example, it's important to have a clear message. And let me share with you some of my experience talking to US investors. An investor in general has so much choice on where to invest, what country, where to invest. And so the name of the game is truly differentiators. What differentiates Tunisia? When we talk about our country, we talk about it emotionally. It sort of makes sense to us, but it doesn't make sense to other people, especially people who are risking their money, who are trying to make money, but who are also trying to lower their risks in terms of where they put their money. So when we talk about our country and say it's a country that's strategically located, that has a young population, that's at sort of the crossroads of trade routes in the Mediterranean, it's all good, but it's not enough. When we talk about our country and say that it could be a hub, sort of a hub where investor can come and can expand their activities to Southern Europe, to the Middle East, to Africa, it's a great story as well, but it's not enough. Because guess what? The others are doing exactly the same thing. The Moroccans are saying that they are the hub. The Turkish are saying that they are the hubs. Pretty much everybody is saying they are the hub. So we thought about all of these things and said to ourselves, at the end of the day, what differentiates our country? I'm not going to talk about sort of the technical aspects, financial, fiscal, etc., but I'm going to talk about the image of our country. What is the perception of people regarding our country? And we came down to the conclusion that there were basically three things that differentiated our country, three key things that truly differentiated our country. The first thing is the widespread level of education. We're in an educational institution. You guys are doing wonderful. Believe it or not, despite our issues with educations, we still have that advantage as a country to be a highly educated country. So that's number one. That's very important. When we talk about investors and tell them that we have an educated population, it means something. The second thing that differentiates Tunisia compared to a number of its regional competitors is the role of women in society. That is extremely important as well. When women in our society, women in our country have played such an important role in developing our country, that's a differentiator. That's something that's key. That's something that resonates to investors. Because they look at it and they say, you know what, when women are involved, things are pretty good, actually. You know, we lower our risks. So that's very important. The third thing, and this is sort of an ongoing story, it's this image of a country that's a maverick country. A country that somehow is able to go crisis after crisis and innovate. You know, it may sound sort of, maybe theoretical, but look at it. You know, if you sort of look at what Tunisia was able to accomplish in terms of being an innovator, in terms of women's rights in 1956, in terms of doing a revolution in 2011. Believe it or not, you know, this resonates a lot, you know, because this means that we're doing things first. We are the first that have been able to do this. Whether we're going to survive these things, well, history has proven that we've survived them, but it's important that we outline that we've been first to doing it, and so it creates that image of a maverick, of sort of an innovator, of a serial, you know, trend-setting nation. And that's very important for investors as well. I'll warn you against the typical mistakes we do when we talk about Tunisia to inform audiences abroad. You know, we tend to oversell our country. Because we love our country, we say, you know, it's just the most amazing country ever. Things are perfect, you know, no security issue, no corruption, you know, things are going really smoothly. That's a big mistake. That's why I like the video about transparency, because transparency is key. And now with the revolution, transparency is becoming even more important, because what we gain from this revolution, one important thing we gained from this revolution, I know there's so many difficulties, but one important thing that we gained from this revolution is this rise of civil society. This role that civil society is playing in essentially being that watchdog, so that nothing goes unsaid and things are really being scrutinized. And that's important, again, to an outside investor. So that's sort of been my experience as far as investment. Let me say a few words about tourism, and you know, it's been sort of, you know, portrayed in pretty much all the videos that we looked at. You know, when you think about the American markets and tourism, the Americans are not going to come to Tunisia because we have beaches, because they have beaches around them. You know, they have the Caribbean, they have beautiful beaches out there. They're not going to come for the Sahara Desert, frankly, because they have deserts as well. What's so unique about us that's going to bring them out here? What's so unique about us that's going to bring them here is our civilization, our 3,000 years of history, our culture. They want to discover, you know, the Americans don't have a long history. They want to discover what's going on, what this country looks like, this country that, you know, went through so many transformations, from the Berbers to Carthage, you know, all the civilization that went into Tunisia. And, you know, one of the ideas I had back in 2002 was to create a company that brought US tourists to Tunisia. And, you know, I decided not to provide them with any of the traditional touristic products that we have here. Not that there's anything wrong with them, but that it wasn't going to satisfy their need. What I wanted to do is provide them with an authentic experience in Tunisia, one that takes them to small boutique hotels, that gives them a flavor of what this country looks and feels like, that takes them to archaeological sites, that takes them to you know, small medinas, that takes them to artisans, that takes them to talk to people in the street. And that's what they enjoy at the end of the day. And bringing more of them, I think, would be beneficial to a country like ours, because we have to diversify our clientele. So that's sort of my experience in tourism. It's been hard to find the proper people, the proper structure here in Tunisia. It's been hard to find clients in the US, given that there's no direct air connection. But the name of the game is niche. Just be sort of focused on certain segments, you know, on certain agencies, and then certain reliable people here, English-speaking guides, small boutique hotels, etc. So that's been my experience in tourism, and I know I don't have much more time, so let me conclude by just thanking you and saying that, again, I'm truly delighted to be here. I'm hoping that out of this, you'll have some ideas about how to promote your country and how to talk about it in a structured fashion to foreigners. And then also brand your school, continue to brand your school, which is truly an innovative school. And then at the end of the day, also brand yourself, because it's all the same principle. You all have to come to a point in time where you're going to seek a job, or you're going to do your own enterprise, and it's all the same game. You have to think about your differentiators. You have to think about how you present yourself, how you portray yourself, how you market yourself. And these are all the principles that we're discussing here all today apply to branding yourself just as much as it applies to branding your country. So thank you so much.